last lab of the semester, so this is the last time you'll be applying something completely new. So congratulations for making it this far. I know it's been a lot of new learning, so good job. Today we're going to be looking at creating media queries, and we're actually going to be building on the code that we made for our last lab. So what I recommend doing is just making a duplicate of whatever you turned in for lab 14, and then just renaming this duplicate to lab 15, and then just continuing on from there. So I made a duplicate, and I'm just going to open those files in Visual Studio Code, and then we'll get started making some changes. So the goal is to take what we made and then make a version of it that will be responsive in the mobile version. So we're going to have, when it gets smaller, something's going to change. Alright, so the first thing that you'll want to do is to add this code to the head of your HTML document. So this is what's going to make the media queries work. So you can just copy this and paste it right in. And we're going to go to that HTML document, then go to the head and just paste that right there. And then the next thing we want to do is change all of our link classes to IDs. So down here, where I have all of these links as classes, we're going to change those all to IDs, because this will make it easier for us in the long run to make sure everything is working really smoothly. So I'm going to just go through this list in my HTML and just change these all to IDs. Perfect. And then I'm going to go over here. Oh, we want to save our changes. And then where I have my links right here, I have .link, but we're going to change that to hashtag now, since these are all now IDs instead of classes. So hashtag link A, and hashtag link A on hover. We'll save that. And that's all we're going to do in the HTML. So the rest of this work is all going to be in the style sheet. If we refresh this, we're not going to see anything change yet, because this is all just prep work. Okay? What we want to do is just adjust our desktop styles a little bit, just to make it a little bit more responsive, and again, to make everything work how we want it to look. So in the desktop styles, that's what you've already been doing. So we're just going to adjust our style sheet a little bit from what we already had it. So let's first find where we targeted our wrapper ID, which is right here. And then we're going to remove the width. So I'm going to remove that. And then instead, I'm going to add a max width of 1100 pixels. So I'm going to do that. Max width 1100 pixels. Save that. Alright. And again, we're not really seeing much change. We just made it so that the width of the entire page is just a little bit smaller in general. Then I want to target the logo image of my hero class. So let's see, we have a hero class somewhere here, and now we want to target that image. So I'm going to go ahead and say hero image, because if we look in our hero, we have an image tag. So we're going to target that like that, and then I'm going to go ahead and give it a width of 500 pixels and a margin of 10 pixels. Alright, so we just adjusted the size of this guy. And then I want to also find the image in my main ID, which we already have, and we want to give it a width of 40%. So right now it has 200 pixels. I'm just going to change that to 40%. Alright. Now we want to go ahead and adjust our code with a media query so that when this gets smaller, it looks a little bit different, makes a little more sense for that mobile style. So I'm going to go ahead and have us add this code to our CSS sheet. So I'm just going to do it at the bottom here. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in. And then everything we write for that mobile page is going to go in between those brackets. So this is saying that at the width between 481 pixels and 768, this is what we want it to look like. So we don't need to write all of this stuff all over again. We just have to write anything that we're changing, okay? So the first thing we want to do is turn off the visibility of the sidebar so that when we shrink it, this sidebar disappears. So I'm going to go hashtag sidebar and then display none to turn that off. So now when I refresh, once I shrink it, once it gets to that smaller dimension, you can see the sidebar disappears. Now we also want to adjust the flex basis of the content ID. So if you remember, we had a flex box, and this was one column in that flex box, this being the other. So this was taking up 75% of the screen width and this 25%. Now we want to make this content take up 100% of the screen width. So we're going to go ahead and just do hashtag content, and then again, flex basis to 100% instead of 75%. If you look back up here, you can see we also had that flex grow and flex shrink, but we don't need to write those again because we aren't changing them, so it's just going to automatically pull these. Again, we're only overwriting in the media the mobile styles. We're just overwriting anything that we want to change. So now, I mean, you're not really going to see too much of a difference, but in the code, now it's adjusting that flex box. Now we want to go ahead and target the hero. Actually, I'm going to have us target the hero ID first. So I'm going to go ahead and just say hashtag hero, and I want to set a height. So I'm going to set the height to 30 pixels. And basically what this is, oh, not 30 pixels, 130 pixels. Basically what this is doing is setting a specific set height. So now you can see it's getting a little bit thinner. Our banner at the top is getting a little bit thinner. But now you can see that in my mobile styles, my logo is just way too large. So we need to adjust that. That's going to be the image inside of our hero. So that is here. We go hero image, and then we can change the width. Now I said 90% in here. It might need to be adjusted depending on how large your browser window is. Yeah, 90 is still really large. Let me try 60 and see how that looks. Yeah, 60 is a lot better. So you might just have to adjust that size depending on your browser window, but basically it's just making this guy a little bit smaller and more responsive so it fits within that banner. Okay, now we want to adjust our nav menu. Okay, so right now, if you look, once this is really small, these are going to be really difficult to click on. They're going to be really tiny if you're on your mobile. So we're going to adjust that, and what we're going to do is first target the nav menu ID, and our nav menu ID, let's see, we can look up here to remember what it was. It was hashtag nav menu. So now down here in my media queries, I'm going to say hashtag nav menu, and we want to change the flex direction. So flex direction is going to make it go from this horizontal, and now we want to go ahead and change it to a vertical or a column stack. So I'm going to say column, and now look at that. Now we have a nice little column stack. And as we're doing this, I'm noting that there's still some area where my logo is being a little bit funky. So I think I'm going to adjust the size of that again, and let's say maybe 40%. See how that looks. That's a lot better. It's not great. Just because it's getting so tiny. Let me try 50. And again, you might just have to play around with these numbers. 50 looks pretty good. I think I'm also going to make my banner a little bit bigger. Right now the height is 130. I'm going to change it to 150 and just see if that makes everything look a little smoother. Yeah, I think that looks a little smoother. Okay. And now I also want to change the height of my nav menu, so I'm going to go ahead and down here where I flex direction column, I'm also going to go ahead and make a height, so 350 pixels. There we go. And now they're a little bit higher, so we have a lot more room, a lot more space for those buttons. The final thing that I want to do is adjust the text in these buttons, okay? So we're going to target the A, because remember those are the links. So we're going to go ahead and target. Let's see what we had up here. Okay, it was just link A. Okay. So we'll do hashtag link A. And remember, the reason we're declaring link is because we want to, if we ever put any more links on this page, we want to make sure we're not changing all the links, only the links that are labeled as the ID's link, okay? So we're going to do link A, and then we're going to change our font size to 2EM, and then I'm going to give it some margin top, 15 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Now they're much larger, so see how much more space they take up. They're going to be a lot easier to click on if you were on a mobile device. So once you've done all of that, you should be able to just zip up your folder and turn it into Canvas.